Hi there, my name's Tom Manners. On Twitter I'm at Manomatics, and in the last few months I've introduced this ResourceFULL series. Now, of course, in the last few weeks a lot of people have been told they're going to be taking on mixed attainment maths in September, and maybe aren't very comfortable with it because they haven't had a lot of time to train and practice and discuss it. And so I interviewed Helen Hindle and Tom Frankham. Both have been successful in introducing mixed attainment maths into their schools, and it was a really interesting interview, and I wanted to go away and reflect upon it. And completely stealing Craig Barton's idea of takeaways and reflecting afterwards, I thought I'd better do my own reflection, and my own reflection is going to be FULLup. Hopefully you see what I did there. And so it's going to be my reflection on mixed attainment maths, and I think this is important for me because I am going to be doing this in my school. I'm going to have a year 8 and a year 7 class mixed attainment, first time properly for me, and I thought actually the chance to reflect upon it and maybe share that with you and share that with people so they can see where I'm coming from, but also maybe help you make your decisions to what you're going to do. Because one thing that's very important from this, Tom and Helen didn't have the same approach. And we don't all have the same approach for those who teach SETID. So let's make that clear from the very beginning. You do not have to have the same approach as everybody else for mixed attainment. You're going to choose what's right for you. You're going to hear ideas from Helen, from me, from Tom Frankham, from Mike Ollerton, from others, and decide what's going to be right for you and your department. So what I'm hoping to do, this reflection, as I say, is going to be a mixture of what Helen shared, definitely with regards to culture, I think was very important. What Tom thought about the depth, I think resonates with me. The depth of the tasks and the alterations of the class, the tasks. So I'm intending to consider my goals for successful implementation of mixed attainment, the ethos and culture in my classroom, and share some of the resources that I'm going to be using, most of which are readily available already. Sometimes it's going to require me to do some thinking. A reminder, of course, mixedattainmentmaths.com is a great website to go that Helen has set up and shared a number of her resources and ideas and links and presentations on the theory and the practice of mixed attainment maths. Jo Bowler is a huge advocate of it, and if you've come across her books, The Elephant in the Classroom, Mathematical Mindsets, and her website, ucube.org, she's based in America now, but she's a huge advocate of mixed attainment maths. And I went on to uCubed, and this video from uCubed, as it says here, helped to inspire me and also reminded me about the children and their feelings in maths classroom. So we're going to watch this, and then I'm going to give you my presentation.
Some people think I'm not good at math. I can never do anything. I'm not good at it. I'm just going to give up.
A lot of people think of it as like prison, like you don't have any freedom.
Okay, time to go to your notebook. Okay, read chapter 1. Okay, here's your worksheet.
The math textbook, it's kind of like the Bible. You have to kind of worship the textbook, and I don't really like that.
Everyone's going so quickly, and I thought if I didn't go quick, people think I'm like not smart.
I made a lot of mistakes, and I got really sad about it.
You make a mistake, you're pretty much done.
I can't do it fast, and they're so smart because they can, and I'm not smart, and I just kind of stopped.
You feel like you're serving a sentence for, like, nothing.
I love it. That does look like a keyboard.
Oh, we got it!
I've done better with math when I was talking with people, sharing ideas.
4 or 5 brains work better than 1.
I'll see it one way, but then someone else will see it another way, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
I love that we're getting different answers out because lots of problems in math, there are different answers.
Have more than one way to solve the question.
Because in real life, you're not going to just do one thing. You're going to do many things. You're going to need to use different methods.
Yay!
No, hold on. Take your time and just experiment with every way that could possibly work.
You definitely have to be patient
because certain problems, they take forever.
Math isn't about speed, and you can make mistakes and you learn from them.
Yeah, I did that too!
Math isn't like the enemy and it can't hurt me.
You can run wild, you can pass ideas by each other.
I thought that math was all about right answers and wrong. Now that I believe that math is really about ideas and creativity, it's a lot more inspiring.
Okay, I'm going to move on from there from YouTube. I wrote down a number of notes while I was watching it again now, actually, and here's some of the notes from it. Mistakes are fine. We need to learn from them. We have to encourage each other on the children's side. I thought that was really nice. It's clear that they benefited from an interactive classroom with discussions, not the repetition of a standard worksheet. It felt monotonous, I think they talked about almost. More than one way, multiple methods for subjects. Now, this is more like real life, as one of the children said, as we will need multiple methods to solve multiple different problems. And more than one way in comparison of methods, discussion about those methods. 4 or 5 brains are better than one of the children said. Maths is not about speed. Take your time and experiment. It's not the fastest to get there. Be patient. Maths is about creativity and ideas that inspires, it was saying, experiment in the classroom, that encouraging culture. I just thought that was really powerful and reminded me of many of the reasons why some people advocate mixed attainment and what I'm going to have to do to bring into my classroom. I think it reminded me of this paper, The Mathematical Habits of Mind, based on the work of, I think it's El Cueco, but I've never been able to pronounce it correctly. That's shot there is from Can Do Maths, and it talks about those habits of mind. We want pupils to experiment, to pattern sniff, to tinker and conjecture. That's in the national curriculum. To describe, to visualise. We know we talk about representations. To invent new ideas, to guess. Guesstimate, if you like, and make an estimated a guess based on information that we know. Conjecture, therefore. And I want all my mathematicians, doesn't matter what kind of class I'm teaching, to have these mathematical habits of mind. We know the national curriculum tells us about fluency, reasoning and problem solving, but it says all. And it means, whilst I do believe fluency is key to enabling progress, and you've got to be able to have that fluency before you solve problems, I need to make sure in my classrooms all pupils are given the opportunity to problem solve. It's not going to be you do your fluency, you do your reasoning, you do your problem solving, because some children might not ever get to the bottom end of that problem solving. So I've got to make sure in my classroom I consider the flexibility approach of that. Everyone's going to have to do the fluency. There's every classroom, every maths lesson should have reasoning anyway, but making sure those problems might just be a starter, for example. And the national curriculum also tells us this: pupils who grasp concepts rapidly should be challenged through that rich, sophisticated problems. So I'm going to be looking for those rich, sophisticated problems. For those, as it says here, who grasp the key learning point of the lesson and have demonstrated that stronger fluency in the reasoning skills. So I've got to look for those rich problem-solving activities, and I'll talk about that in this presentation as well. I found this from mixedattainmentmaths.com, Mike Collerton. Differentiation doesn't happen at some spurious notion of 3 different levels, the red, amber, green stuff. It happens at many levels of cognition and depth of sense-making. There's that word depth again. I thought that was quite important. Differentiation by depth, therefore. Now, on Helen's website, she talked about these other types of differentiation. Differentiation by task, and I think Helen's method includes a bit more of everyone's doing equations, but maybe different types of equations. And I think my differentiation is going to be by task, but with the tasks will be different depth. A differentiation by support is going to be really important. Of course, some pupils might have teaching assistants, but I've got to be the scaffold and create the scaffold to those pupils who need it. Differentiate by questioning, absolutely, but I want to make sure everyone's engaged with that. It's collaborative, it's discussion that everyone should be engaged with the right language. The outcome there is interesting. The same stimulus leads to open-ended responses, multiple entry point tasks, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. The national curriculum tells us as well about spoken language, and it reflects the importance of spoken language in pupils' development. So my expectation in every classroom, slam. Everyone will use all proper mathematical language at all times. I'm not going to allow some pupils to say the right words, say point, when they might want to say vertex. They are going to say the right words. Everyone's going to have those right standards. Why shouldn't we have high expectations for our pupils after all? I've shown this in a previous presentation, that language and communication, if we're able to articulate mathematical ideas, concepts and reasoning, it has a profound effect on the way that people see themselves. So having those high standards and expectations, saying, do you know what, we're going to say it, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right, we're going to say it right as well. The conciseness and precision of mathematical notation, vocabulary, definition and argument. They're not merely conventional, they play important roles in mathematical thinking, in mathematical discussions, and we saw from that video that discussions are clearly very important. A tweet back from Maths Mr. Gordon, and he was citing this awesome blog from Danny Quinn, and I do suggest you go and look at it, Increasing Rigour in the Maths Classroom. And that first one there, talk in general terms, instead of talking about the specific example, talk about the example in general terms is really, really useful, and I certainly encourage you to go to this blog, and this is a really nice slide that Ben Gordon created. So the NCTM, now I am one of the teaching for mastery specialists, pardon me. Now there are some themes and key principles, but before I come to those, I want to talk about one little thing that the NCTM have shared, and there's misunderstandings with this, and it's important. The essential features of teaching for mastery of maths, working to develop understanding, keeping the class together, working on the same content, it's believing that every child can succeed. It can be applied in a mixed attainment classroom, setted or streamed classes. But the NCTM make it really clear they don't discourage or encourage. And there are people who think teaching for mastery means it's a mixed attainment approach. It is not. That's not fair. You can teach for mastery in any classroom, but for teaching for mastery is inverted commas, is teaching for understanding. And I'm going to do that with a mixed attainment classroom. That's my goal. That's my aim. So what are the themes and key principles of teaching for mastery? Rejects the idea that a large proportion of people just can't do maths. And I would ask you to think, if you have got pupils who just can't do it, then you're working with those children. You're their future. You're their biggest element of support. I'd ask you to reconsider. You're the one who's going to help them go forward. And if you don't believe they can do it, are you in the right job? I don't mean to be harsh with that. But everyone can achieve. Everyone can achieve, and we have to have that mindset going into the classroom. Lessons are designed to have a high level of teacher-student interaction, where all the students in the class are thinking about working on discussing the same mathematical content. So this is the route I'm going to be going, where yes, the topic is going to be the same for everybody in the classroom, but some pupils might be doing a deeper element of it. I thought it was worth sharing Rosenshine, where Tom Sherrington, of course, his book is incredibly popular at the moment. But let's go to the Rosenshine paper from 2012. Look at this here. The most effective maths teacher spent about 23 minutes of a 40-minute period in lecture, demonstration, questioning and working examples. The least effective teachers, 11 minutes. In other words, there was a lot of teacher-student and student-student interaction. Really worth going back to that paper to remind yourself of this. Back to the secondary principles from NCTM. Every attempt to keep the whole class learning together. Differentiation is achieved not through offering different content, but through paying attention to the levels of support, the scaffolds I mentioned before, and the challenge, the depth. This document is available on the NCTM website, by the way. For those students who grasp ideas quickly, acceleration into new content is avoided, just like it said in the national curriculum. Everything's aligned. These students are challenged by deeper analysis of the lesson content and by applying the content in new and unfamiliar problem-solving situations. AO3, again linking to the national curriculum. Lesson design identifies the new math that needs to be taught. So still, as ever, you identify what needs to be taught. What are the misconceptions that are going to occur? What are the prerequisites that I'm going to need? We facilitate whole class interactive discussion, active debate. Bring it on. Bring it on. So there's the document, and a reminder really that it's all about good teaching. That's what teaching understanding is. It says and, it should say and. I'm gutted now. As Tom Franken did say, what's good teaching for mixed attainment classes is good for all classes. Absolutely right. Now, this word mastery, if you go to the research papers, Washburn is one of the kind of originators, but the Benjamin Bloom paper of 1968 talks about the 5 variables that need to be considered to create successful mastery learning. And here they are. The time required by the learner. So some learners might need longer, but they can still do it. The approach taken to meet the individual learner's need. They might need different approaches, but they can still do it. The amount of time allowed by the provider for the pupils. Now that's the awkward one because schools are different. The verbal ability of learners to enable them to solve problems, to reason. So that verbal ability is going to be vital. And the amount of time a learner is prepared to give towards his work. Absolutely, his or her work. It's down to that pupil to put some effort in as well. So looking at those 5, by the way, do you notice nothing about ability there? Let's carry on. So the first one, time required by the learner. I have to accept this and be prepared to spend longer with some individuals. I'm going to have to get around the classroom and work with some. I'm going to have to accept that some just take a little bit longer. And I'm going to have to remember the approaches are going to be different. So I'm going to do different multiple approaches, multiple methods, representation. Remember what that kid said in the video earlier on. The second method, oh, that's interesting, and just comparing those methods. And we build mathematicians in that way, as opposed to building machines who just repeat the same procedure over and over. If they've got methods to compare with each other, then they can see which is the most efficient and why. That's a mathematician, the one who looks for the most efficient method and compares them. And those representations are going to be key to everybody. The amount of time allowed by the provider for the pupils, now I can't really say much about that because I think it's going to be different from school to school, so I'm going to move on. The verbal ability of learners to enable them to solve high standards, slam, speak like a mathematician no matter what. And you might find that schools that use knowledge organisers would be particularly good at doing that. And the amount of time a learner is prepared to give towards their work, absolutely. I need to make, and this is something that Helen Hindle I thought was really, really good at, and it's something I really want to take from the work and what she discussed in the Resourceful episode. I need to make my pupils realise the importance of effort. They put the effort in and the progress can happen, but it is down to them. Obviously people have been talking about this on Twitter, so Director Maths, she shared this, and she got some of these messages here that classroom environments centred around praise, celebrate success, teachers creating a culture of excellence where everyone is expected to produce their best work, high expectations of achievement and gratitude. And I thought this was a really nice thing that she shared. And at the bottom here, for her it's about tweaks rather than an overhaul. And I think that's really important because I'm believing that, you know what, I'm going into mixed attainment for the first time. I believe it's tweaks. I don't think I'm going to be throwing the baby out of the bathwater. I think I'm making tweaks to my practice. Messages in our classrooms and corridors, making sure those positive messages are there. There's a lovely number of posters on ucube.org if you want to go and have a look at that. Collaboration is clearly key in the department and in the classroom. Culture is going to be key in the classroom and the department as well. And then we can go back to these notes from earlier on about the culture. Remind ourselves mistakes are fine. The interactive classroom with discussions. More than one way, multiple methods for subjects. It's more like real life. Maths isn't about speed. Unlike me right now, and I know I'm on one, but I wanted to make this as short as possibly could. Take your time to experiment. Be patient in the classroom. Be patient with the kids. They've got to learn to be patient with each other and be patient with the frustration they're going to get. But we can create that culture. We're the adult in the classroom. We're the ones who create the culture and the mood in the classroom. Maths is about creativity and ideas. It inspires. Helen Hindle in her department, she said that all of them had this on the front of their page. Again, this is a slide taken from her website, missattainmentmaths.com. We all have different starting points. We can all learn from each other. And this slide talks about the culture of the classroom, and we maybe talk about that really strongly in the first week. That's something I'm going to do in my first lesson. Again, from missattainmentmaths.com, Helen talked about think, pair, shares, and at the start of a lesson, a collaboration, a discussion activity. It might be your school has to have a written starter, but then maybe you get straight in with this kind of discussion. They're like Inquiry Maths, and I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Blair in September about his website, Inquiry Maths. Is it a resource or is it a method of teaching? Those are his words, actually, when we're interacting about organising it. Having an inquiry, a prompt to get that discussion. I really want, as the Rosenshine paper said as well, that interaction, teacher-student, student-student interaction. I don't want a quiet classroom. A quiet classroom is a suspicious classroom. Inquirymaths.co.uk is the website if you want to know more about that. Those sentence starters to help those conversations. Some pupils will be able to get straight into it. There's the scaffolds we're referring to earlier on. The importance of pupils taking responsibility for their learning, absolutely. We're going to have to make sure those people, all of them, as we should do anyway, self-reflection, self-awareness, awareness of their own progress. And some of the ideas that Helen shared, this colour in the arrows to where you are, could prove useful. My favourite mistakes to reflect on. I've used this poster a lot in the past. I think it's excellent. We love mistakes. We embrace mistakes. A mistake that moved my learning on. That's fantastic. These elements here, these things we could have used. Today, I achieved something by interacting with the teacher. I made a link between this topic and another one. Maths is all about making connections. To help me move forward, when I got stuck today, this is what I did. That's a great one, that one on the top right there. That's superb because the pupils are reflecting on what they did and reflecting on their effort. Again, the fifth of those Bloom mastery points there. It's down to their effort. And they've got to remember that it's not all about what we do. And which mindset did I demonstrate? Did I work on tasks that challenged me? I used to do this with the red, amber, green 1, 2, 3, the RAG 1, 2, 3 thing that used to be around about. And the pupils would admit, yeah, I only put a 2 in today. I was like, well, what did you do wrong? And I really enjoyed that, and it's something I'd love to revisit in my practice again. Did I check my work for mistakes? So the mindset that I demonstrated, a progress pyramid just here. One question I'd like answered now. These could be handed in at the end of the lesson maybe. 2 things that I'm not sure about. 3 things I understand well enough. So they can really talk about their progress and individualise that as well. Self-reflection was something, again, as you can see in the bottom right there, these are all from a presentation on Helen's website. I think self-reflection is going to be really important in this. I think it'll be really important in every classroom. You're going to set high expectations and encourage that challenge, collaboration and choice. Now the choice one is depending on the way you may be going about mixed attainment, but you can choose to put the effort in, absolutely. Now I do this silly thing on my resourceful series, and it makes me smile, so I'm going to keep on doing it. When I ask my guests what are the online resources they use and they want people to know about, and so we sing the song and we do the photo, and it makes me smile, and people call me an idiot. But one of my favourite online resources, I'm going to change that. What are my resources I'm going to be using for mixed attainment? And why am I going to be doing it? Well, I noticed Mike Ollerton this morning, I think yesterday actually, tweeted this. He's a massive proponent of learning and teaching in mixed attainment groups, and he's led his departments of it as well. He can only offer a positive rationale. I like this line here: the quality of tasks we plan to use is paramount. So it's the tasks that we use. And I thought it was worth mentioning Mike Ollerton as well, because if you go to his website, there it is, mikeollerton.com, he talked about journals and writing, and in the primary schools, we see pupils using this, the idea of a journal, and they make notes, and it gives them an opportunity to become reflective about their learning and develop those communication skills. And that's from the Singapore maths in particular, with Maths No Problem. I'm thinking, well, why don't we do that in secondary? Here's a perfect opportunity to bring it in with mixed attainment. And so they're reflecting on that, just like some of the stuff that Helen was in the previous slides, actually. They were talking about where they are, where their understanding is, where they need to go for, what they need to do, what effort they put in, and what they need to do going forward. I think this is really, really a great idea, one I want to carry into mixed attainment. Tom Franklin talked about this book, and I think I have it nearby. Oh, there it is, just to prove I have got it with me. This book really does make strong suggestions on how to extend activities, and I've tried to take photos of it. It's really crude, but this here is a plotting squares alternative, and so here the question just in this area here tells you the 4 vertices of the square. But maybe we can, I think what Tom Franklin was telling us about was remove some of the givens and make them think a little bit more for themselves. So can we adapt and extend the activities, not create 30 activities, thinking I've got 30 children, 30 different resources? That's not right. Can we remove givens to make them think a little bit harder? And so here, remove the axes. For this one was remove one of the 3 vertices, so that people then have to work it out for themselves. This one here now has to work with negative coordinates, just making it a little bit more demanding perhaps. Remove a given. Only 2 points are given on this one. Now hold on, there's now more than one answer, so remove a given and add information. For this one here, draw the squares with these 2 points lying on one side. So actually, how many options then do you have? Remove further givens. Here, it's given 2 of the vertices. Pupils need to be aware of an alternative orientation of the square. So it was remove a given, change a given. Yes, indeed, the vertices have been exchanged for sides. And that's really interesting. And so it's adapting, mathematically thinking about adapting our tasks as opposed to creating 30 loads of resources. Those questions to challenge mathematical thinking, tweak what we have to challenge pupils, is going to be one of the ways that I go forward this year. These questions are always good for mathematical thinking from Watson and Mason, and these are the questions that create that mathematical thinking. Give me one example up here, give me another, give me another, give me an example that no one else is going to give me a non-example, or as it says, a counter-example here. What if I alter this? What if I change? What if I vary? What if you reverse the direction? What does that mean? If this is the answer to a similar question, what was the question? These are lovely STEM sentences, like STEM questions, to get that mathematical richness and depth thinking in the classroom. OpenMiddle.com, resourceful episode number 2, well worth watching. They allow for that repeated procedural practice if you need it. But they do require that higher depth of knowledge and procedural and conceptual understanding. Look at this one here. Trying to get a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number to close to 7,000. Now, you try a number, then you try another, then you try another, then you try another. Some people might say, hold on, what if I try this because? And so they're immediately applying that higher depth a little bit more, but they're still doing the practice. Really nice activities on OpenMiddle.com. Look at this one here as well, using the digits 1 to 9 at most one time each. Fill in the boxes to find the largest or smallest possible values for the sum of x and y. So what you're practicing solving one-step equation, two-step equations or linear equations, but then you're starting to think, well, what if I do it this way? Well worth watching that episode. It's a brilliant website. Resourceful number 7 was on goal-free problems. Now, goal-free problems have all those conversations, and we spoke in that hour as well about how they encourage that discussion, that collaboration, and you can see how far some people's go. It's an entry point for everybody. When you talk about entry points, we often talk about low floor, high ceiling, which is what suddenly on the next slide. These are the tasks that pupils can access that can be extended to high levels. There are some on ucube.org, so hopefully you can find that useful. Some are on Enrich, and if you know about Enrich, that's fantastic. Again, another resourceful episode on Enrich is coming in September, and I'm looking forward to that because I really want to investigate how to use the whole website, but low threshold, high ceiling especially. I've always been an advocate of Steve Lomax at Max the Maths, and he talks about the do it, secure it, deepen it, or do it, twist it, solve it approach. And I am going to be using this. The answer is only the beginning at the top, and that's true. That's a message I've really got to get through at the start. The answer is only the beginning. Okay, some people think that maths is just do a question, get it right, do a question, get it wrong. Oh damn, I'll do it again, do it right, get it, do it again, and that's boring. The answer is the beginning. That's the journey. How do we get there? Is there a more efficient journey? What did you do? How can we compare the two methods? What's the same? What's different? I do think I'm going to be using the do, twist it, solve it to think about the depth. To making sure those tasks, and so I will be thinking about my assessment 1, assessment 2, assessment objective 3, just from the national curriculum as well. And so again, the Steve Lomax stuff really influences me very strongly. There's a bit of more of a basic version of it, but a reminder, that empty box, here's the answer, what's the question, always, sometimes, never questions are really good for mathematical thinking, and I'm not creating massive amount of resources. I'm going to still do much of what I've always done. I'm still going to use variations, what it is, what it's also, what it's not. I'm still therefore, of course, going to show non-examples. I will still use representation to expose the structure, and I'm going to encourage all pupils to do it. I'm not going to have thinking, well, you don't need to do the drawing, so you just carry on. No way! You're going to get involved like everybody else, and because it's a problem-solving toolbar modelling, and using algebra tiles is a way of helping you understand the problem. So why should some pupils not do it? Everyone in my class is going to use representation, because the better everybody is at it, then they can go back to it when they need it. Not everybody wants to go back to it. CPA can go back to P, you can go back to C. It's important that everybody uses CPA approach. I'm still going to use whiteboards to check for everybody's understanding in the classroom. I'm going to have high expectations of my pupils. Why shouldn't I? I'm a teacher. Why shouldn't I do that? If you don't have that, why are you teaching? I will still plan for questions that challenge mathematical thinking. I will still aim to ensure pupils understand the maths and the concept, not just the procedure, not just try and be apparently fluent at the procedure, but actually understand why I'm doing it, the how and the why. Additional foci, not focus, a foci. I'm going to focus even more than ever on the culture, and that's something I really learned from Helen, and I think it's brilliant. Encouraging that collaboration discussion with a strong focus on metacognition, including the use of journal writing. That's going to be a challenge for me, and that's something I'm setting myself to do. I'm going to be focused on using those anchor tasks, like I've seen in primary practice as well, to encourage these discussions in classrooms. It might not be the very first thing in the classroom, it might be something like a numeracy task to start, but then those anchor tasks to get the conversations going, and that's going to be a regular feature for me. I'm going to have to focus more on the scaffolds, I think, to make sure that if some pupils haven't got that grasp or the prerequisites needed, that I'm aware of that. So I think I am going to work harder on my scaffolds, and I'm going to focus even more on misconceptions. Resourceful episode number 5, I think it was, Craig Barton, his diagnosticquestions.com website. I've used it for years. I did not know the amount of rich information and data it had that would help me about people's misconceptions and how they'll type in what they misunderstood and how they got it wrong. Really, really powerful. I accept I'm going to learn as this process goes on. I thought I'd share this for people who are nervous, but I've decided, right, this is how I'm going to go about it, and I'm going to learn as the process goes on. I don't expect to get it right straight away, none of us can do. Am I going to do the best by my kids? I'm going to do the best I can by my kids, and that is the best I can possibly do. Yeah, don't beat yourself up, okay? If you think you're doing the best you can as a department as well and talking about it, you're going to get better every week. Just like when you started teaching, and if you were in a setting environment, your first lessons weren't as good as your third lessons, which weren't as good as your 10th week of lessons. You got better as you went on. We're not going to nail it straight away, people, okay? Don't put that pressure on yourselves, as long as you really believe you are doing your best, though. I'll talk to my colleagues and others to discuss successes and progress, absolutely. And if this collaboration was key in the classroom and in the department, as I said earlier on as well. Do you know what? Bring it on. Bring it on. If you don't like that movie, well, bring it on. Team Bring It, The Rock. Okay, bring it on. I'm looking forward to the challenge. The truth is, I believe in teaching for depth. I believe in teaching for understanding. And I don't see why any of my beliefs should actually change. It's going to take some additional foci, but bring it.